My fiancée secretly spent our wedding fund on her ex. I froze the account and filed charges then. She stormed into my office with her parents behind her. When I proposed to my fiancée, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. We had been saving for our wedding together, building a fund that represented not just money, but our future. Every deposit felt like a promise, a brick in the foundation of the life we were planning. She always talked about the big day, the flowers, the dress, the perfect venue. I wasn't opposed to splurging, but we had agreed on a budget. We wanted a wedding we could be proud of without starting our marriage buried in debt. That was our deal, so I thought. It started with something small. I noticed our joint savings account seemed a little lighter than I remembered. At first, I chalked it up to a simple mistake on my part. Maybe I'd miscalculated, or maybe some bills had been paid automatically. I didn't want to assume the worst. But when I checked the account again a few days later, I knew something was off. Several large withdrawals had been made, amounts too big to ignore. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the transactions, my mind trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Thousands of dollars gone. I asked her about it casually at first, not wanting to come across as accusatory. "Hey, did you use the wedding account for anything? Notice some big withdrawals?" Her reaction was instant. She stiffened, her eyes flicking away from mine. Yeah, just some things we needed. Don't worry about it." Something in her tone told me everything I needed to know. I pressed a little harder, but she shut the conversation down quickly. She acted like I was overreacting, like it wasn't a big deal. But inside, alarm bells were ringing. That night, after she went to bed, I dug deeper. I logged into the account again, cross-checked the dates and amounts, and that's when I found it payments to an account I didn't recognize. After some careful digging, I realized the truth. She had been sending money to her ex. My stomach turned. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was emotional. She had taken the money we had saved for our future and funneled it to someone from her past. I sat there in the dark, staring at the computer screen, feeling the weight of what this meant. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I froze the account first thing the next morning. She didn't notice immediately, and I decided not to say a word. My emotions were too wrong, hurt, disbelief, all swirling together. If I confronted her, it would explode. Instead, I quietly gathered everything. Bank statements, receipts, proof of the transfers. My hands shook as I compiled the evidence, but I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, and I wasn't going to let it slide. 2 days later, after filing charges, I was sitting at work trying to focus when I heard a commotion outside my office door. Then it happened. She stormed in, her face red with rage, her parents trailing behind her like an angry mob. And that's when everything really blew up. When the door to my office flew open, the entire floor went silent. My fiancée barged in, her face twisted with fury, her parents right on her heels. It felt like a storm had just ripped through my workplace, and I was sitting dead center. She pointed at me immediately, her voice shrill and echoing down the hall. "How dare you freeze the account? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Her words spilled out like venom, and her parents looked just as livid. I stood slowly, trying to keep my composure. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" My voice was steady, but inside, my heart pounded. My coworkers peeked over cubicle walls, their eyes wide, waiting for the explosion. Her father slammed his fist on my desk. "You don't air dirty laundry like this. If you had a problem, you should have talked to her, not humiliated the family by going to the police." The absurdity nearly made me laugh. She drained our wedding fund to send money to her ex? That's not a problem. That's theft. I'm not going to sweep it under the rug just to save face. Mother gasped dramatically, clutching her pearls as though I'd insulted her personally. She was helping someone she cares about. "You men and your pride, always putting money above people." I felt the blood rushing to my head, but I forced myself to breathe. Helping. She was sneaking behind my back. That was our money for our future. "Do you really expect me to marry someone who betrays me like this?" My fiancé's eyes glistened with angry tears. "You don't understand, he needed me. He's been struggling, and I couldn't just leave him hanging. I still care about him as a person." "That doesn't mean I don't love you." Those words cut deep. "Still care about him?" I clenched my jaw, staring at her in disbelief. "If you still care so much about him, maybe you should marry him instead." The office went dead quiet. My coworkers were pretending to work, but I could feel every eye locked on us. Her parents exchanged glances, realizing I wasn't backing down. But my fiancée doubled down, her voice breaking. "You're destroying everything. You had no right to press charges. You know what this will do to my reputation? To my career? To us?" Stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You destroyed everything the moment you chose him over us. Don't you dare put this on me." She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Her parents tried to argue more, throwing accusations, but I stood my ground. Eventually security showed up, asking them to leave. My fiancée screamed at me one last time, calling me heartless, before storming out with her parents in tow. As the door closed behind them, the office let out a collective breath. I sank into my chair, exhausted but resolute. For the first time in weeks, I felt clarity. This wasn't just the end of an engagement, it was the beginning of me taking my life back. The office confrontation left me rattled, but oddly lighter too. Everyone had seen the truth play out, no more pretending. Still, I knew the real storm wasn't over. Legal battles don't end with screaming in hallways, they get messier before they get clean. That night, I went home to an empty apartment. Silence was deafening, but it was also peaceful. No slammed doors, no heated arguments. It's just me, my thoughts, and the faint hum of the refrigerator. I sat at the table, the stack of bank statements still spread out in front of me, and reminded myself why I'd pressed charges. The next morning, the calls started. Her parents, her friends, even her aunt all blowing up my phone. Some begged me to be reasonable. Others accused me of ruining her life over a mistake. Every message dripped with guilt tripping. Not one of them acknowledged the betrayal. I didn't respond. I let the calls go to voicemail. The evidence was already with the police, and the wheels of justice were turning. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how lucky I was to have caught this before the wedding. If she could betray me with something this huge, what else was she capable of? At work, whispers followed me down the hall. My coworkers tried to act professional, but I could feel their eyes on me. A few brave ones pulled me aside, offering quiet support. "You did the right thing," one of them said. Most guys would have ignored the red flags. The hardest part was facing the truth. I didn't just lose a fiancé. I lost the future I thought I was building. No venue, no wedding, no honeymoon. Just me alone, starting from scratch. It stung. It ached. But beneath the pain, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. A few days later, my lawyer called. "She's furious," he said, almost amused. "Her attorney is already pushing back, saying, 'You're overreacting. But with the evidence you've got, it's airtight. She doesn't stand a chance.'" I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Good. She needs to understand there are consequences." Still, part of me wondered if she truly grasped the severity. To her, maybe it was just money, just numbers on a screen. But to me, it was trust. And once that's gone, there's no fixing it. That weekend, I went out for a walk, trying to clear my head. That's when I bumped into an old friend. He had heard bits of what happened and said, "Man, she showed her true colors before you signed any papers. Consider yourself lucky. Divorce is expensive. Engagement's much cheaper." I laughed for the first time in weeks. He was right. Painful as it was, I had dodged a lifetime of manipulation and betrayal. But I knew my fiancée and her family weren't done. She had too much pride to let things go quietly. I braced myself for whatever came next. I thought things might quiet down after the initial shock, but I underestimated how far she and her family would go. Within days, I started noticing posts on social media. Vague statuses from her, shared by her cousins, all painting her as the victim. Words like betrayal, heartless, and ruined wedding started circulating. At first I ignored it. Let people talk. But then, messages from mutual friends started rolling in. "Hey man, she's saying you left her high and dry a month before the wedding. What's going on?" Some were sympathetic, others weren't. Rumors spread faster than truth ever could. Her parents doubled down too. They called my family, trying to sway them, trying to shame me into dropping charges. My mother, bless her, called me in tears. "They told me you were being cruel. Is it true?" I explained what really happened. Her voice hardened. "Then don't you dare back down. You did nothing wrong." It felt good to hear that, but the pressure was still there. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced myself for another attack. My ex-fiancée wasn't just fighting legally, she was waging a full-blown smear campaign. And then came the real twist. My lawyer called, his tone more serious than before. "You're not going to believe this, but the funds she transferred, They didn't just disappear into thin air. They went directly into her ex's personal account. We're subpoenaing him next. I froze. So he's officially part of this now? Absolutely, my lawyer replied. And once he's involved, she won't be able to hide behind excuses like helping a friend. This will get ugly, but it strengthens your case. That night, I sat alone, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. She hadn't just helped her ex, she'd funneled thousands to him while pretending to plan a future with me. My chest tightened with a mix of anger and disbelief. The next morning, as if on cue, she showed up outside my apartment building. This time, she wasn't screaming. She was crying, red-eyed, makeup smudged, clutching a folder in her hands. She begged me to talk. Against my better judgment, I stepped outside. You don't have to do this, she pleaded, her voice breaking. If you drop the charges, we can work this out. I'll pay you back. I'll do whatever you want. Just please. Her parents sat in their car nearby, watching like hawks. I realized this wasn't about love or reconciliation. It was about saving face, about avoiding the legal consequences she had brought on herself. I looked her in the eyes, feeling the weight of years of trust shattered. You made your choice when you took that money. Now I'm making mine. This isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. Her tears turned to anger in an instant. You'll regret this, she spat, before storming back to the car. Her parents glared at me as they drove off, as if I had dishonored their entire bloodline. But I didn't regret it. For the first time in a long while, I felt certain. This wasn't just about protecting my money anymore. It was about standing up for myself. So something told me the battle was only heating up. The day of the first court hearing came faster than I expected. Walking into that courtroom, I felt a mix of nerves and grim determination. My ex-fiancée sat at the opposite table, her parents flanking her like a protective shield. She avoided my eyes, but I could feel the weight of her glare burning into me. Beside her was her lawyer, already flipping through a stack of papers. Beside me, my own attorney leaned close and whispered, "Stay calm. We've got the evidence. Just let it speak for itself." I nodded, though my palms were slick with sweat. When the judge entered, the room settled. Lawyer wasted no time spinning a narrative. According to him, this wasn't theft. It was a misunderstanding between two people preparing for marriage. He painted me as a cold, calculating who overreacted. I clenched my fists under the table. Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood, voice steady, and laid everything bare. The joint account, the transfers, the direct trail of money into her ex's bank account. He held up printed statements highlighting dates and amounts. The judge's expression tightened with every page turned. And then came the moment of truth, the subpoenaed ex. He shuffled into the courtroom, clearly uncomfortable, eyes darting between my ex-fiancée and the judge. When questioned, he admitted receiving the money. At first, he tried to frame it as loans or gifts, but under pressure, he cracked. She told me it was her money, he muttered, said she wanted to help me get back on my feet. My stomach twisted, hearing it out loud. I glanced at her. She sat rigid, her face pale, lips pressed tight. Her parents shifted uncomfortably, their earlier confidence draining away. The judge leaned forward. So you admit that you knowingly withdrew funds from a joint account intended for the plaintiff and used them for purposes unrelated to that account. Her silence said it all. My lawyer nodded firmly. Your Honor, this isn't a misunderstanding. This is a deliberate breach of trust and financial misconduct. The courtroom was quiet except for the sound of pens scratching notes. I could feel the tide turning, but my heart still pounded. I wasn't celebrating yet. After a tense recess, the judge returned with a temporary ruling. The case would proceed to a full hearing, but the evidence was compelling enough to freeze her personal accounts until further notice. She gasped audibly, her parents whispering frantically beside her. As we left the courtroom, she caught my arm in the hallway, her voice low and trembling. Why are you doing this to me? We were supposed to get married. We were supposed to be a team. I pulled my arm free, looking her dead in the eye. Team doesn't betray each other. You made your choice. Now you live with it. Her expression hardened into something cold, almost unfamiliar. You'll regret this, she hissed, before storming away with her parents. But as I stepped outside, the cool air hitting my face, I felt something else. Relief. For the first time, it wasn't just me saying she was wrong, it was the law backing me up. And deep down, I knew the final chapter was still to come. After months of hearings, the judge finally gave the ruling. My ex-fiancée was ordered to repay every dollar she took, plus damages for fraud. Her ex was implicated too, forced to return what he had received. The wedding fund I thought was gone was restored. The courtroom was tense. She broke down crying, clutching her mother's arm, while her father glared at me with open hatred. But I didn't waver. For so long I had been gaslit, told I was overreacting. Now the truth was undeniable. The law itself confirmed it. When I stepped outside, I felt a weight lift from my chest. Friends who once doubted me now apologized, and my family told me they were proud I stood my ground. That validation meant more than the money itself. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the restored account. It wasn't just numbers on a screen, it was proof that I had protected myself. Love without trust is nothing but a trap, and I had escaped before it destroyed me. As for her, she lost everything she tried to gamble for: her reputation, her future, and even the people she thought she could manipulate. I didn't hate her, but I would never forgive her either. I didn't walk away with a wedding, but I walked away with something more valuable: my freedom, my peace, and the certainty that I could rebuild without betrayal hanging over me. And for the first time in months, I actually felt ready for the future.